Hey everybody, it's Tim with Broken Dice bringing you my solo wargaming project update. This is turn 2 from the Greeks and the Persians, 2,000 points using the Clash of Empire rule set. This is a little recap of the way the first turn ended. Not much happened except for the Greeks losing a unit of javelinmen to the Persian light cavalry horse archers. Bad dice rolling, really bad dice rolling. But that's basically the position of all the units at the end of turn 1. Turn 2, we go to the command card flip, and you can see that the Greeks have a 4 of spades, and the Persians have a 3 of hearts. So in this phase of turn 2, the Greeks will get to go first. Move on over, and we flip over the basically their movement cards, initiative cards, I don't know, whatever we want to call it, but it's the order in which movement order card, I guess, would be a good way to phrase it. Being a solo game, I want to see it pan out and react without too much of my own personal bias and input. I've talked about that before. Let's just go on. The light cavalry have a 10, then back over the levy, hoplites have a 9, and we just go down in descending order. On the far right, the Greek light cavalry charged the Persian light cavalry, and the Persian light cavalry has chosen to countercharge. It's kind of one of those aspects in the game that I kind of like. The way you work it out is the charging unit moves, and then the counter charging unit moves their one movement rate, and then the chargers finish moving. So you can have I think it's an interesting concept, and where you're placed on the battlefield, your unit is just not sitting there taking it. It has a chance to move its footprint on the battlefield as it's being charged. So I kind of like that one. You notice here that the Persians' movement card is still turned down because they are not active yet. Okay, now what you can notice here are some of these little black arrows. They're the red arrows that have the charge on them for the, like I used with the light cavalry. I'm just flipping those over to denote just a regular movement instead of some sort of charging. If I flip over and they're red, that means the unit's charging. The slingers up here have a little black shield that's flipped over. That means they're not going to move, and they're just going to shoot. Okay, we got all the moving in. Okay. And now we're probably moving into the shooting phase. We move the basically your levy hoplites on the far left really pushed out pretty far. Yeah, on the far left, and then we have the combat on the far right, and the rest is just basically maneuvering. Okay, in the combat phase, kind of bloody here. Both units have done some significant damage. In this one, the Persian light cavalry actually won the combat, but because the general for the Greeks is within range, he adds a +1 to their combat resolution, and therefore it's a draw. And as you can see up here on the Persian slingers, the javelinmen from the Greeks have inflicted 3 damage on them. So it's funny, like this is a model removal system. I'm well aware of that. It's just that when I did my first unit, I tried to pull off my first model because all my stuff is magnetized. I start snapping off little weapons and stuff like that, and it's like, it's just not worth it. It's one of those fiddly parts where you can keep track of your wounds in a lot of different ways. It's just, most of us are smart enough to do the math in our head. This is the end of the Greek phase of turn 2. Now we're moving on to the Persians phase. Now they become active. This is from the Persian side of the table, so you get a way it pans out from that side. And now we'll go to flipping the cards over. Okay, now as we remember in the first turn, the Persians really had a really good turn of the cards. What was out front got the high cards, what was in back got the low cards, and nobody was bound up very much. Here we have just the opposites happened. The Sparabara units behind the slingers are with the higher cards. This also isn't too bad for the Persians, because really you don't want your Sparabara moving around too much. You want them fairly stationary. If they had enough move where this unit could clear the skirmishers, then it could be an option to move them forward or move the skirmishers back through them. But either way, neither one, because of positioning, has enough movement to clear the other unit. So it's still problematic, but it's really not too much of a problem just because of the way the Sparabara unit operates. It's more of a shooting unit than a close combat unit. But you notice on the right, with the king and the queen, the two cavalry units, the camel riders and the medium cavalry for the Persians, have no one in front of them. We could elect to charge, but again, it's more about shooting, and historically speaking, cavalry did not charge formed infantry in the front. Okay, it was just suicidal to do, even if they were fairly heavily armored. You got to remember, at this point in time, there's no stirrups. They're just sitting on their saddle blankets or some sort of light saddle equipment and saddlery equipment, and it just really wasn't much of an option at this point in time. That's the light cavalry on the far left. It's more of a running through and tossing javelins at each other and trying not to get knocked off your horse. So basically what's going to happen here is there's going to be a little movement with the archers on the left, the Iranian archers. They'll move up, but using the same sort of tokens. So all these units are going to stand pat, and they're going to shoot at the oncoming Greeks. And so we come back over to the Greek side so we can actually see the effect of the shooting. The horse archers have shot into the Greek general's hoplite unit and done a couple. The slingers for the Persians have really done a number on the javelin men of the Greeks, and the light hoplites. Your levy hoplites have taken some damage from combined shooting from the medium infantry with composite bows and the camel riders. I do believe the camel riders didn't do anything, and all the damage was done by the medium cavalry with the composite bows. Here we are back on the Persian side from their perspective. On the far left, another combat has been fought by the two light cavalry units, and again it has ended up in a draw. As you can see, the white dice depicts the number of troops left, and the red dice depicts the number of wounds taken. So both are down to 1/3 of their starting strength. I would assume in turn 3, one or the other is going to perish. You can see that the javelin men, I don't know why I can't think of that word, the javelin men of the Greeks have 2 stacked white dice behind them. That means they need to take a morale test because of the shooting damage they have received from the Persian slingers. Other than that, that's all the testing that needs to be done, and we'll go on. And here you can see the morale roll for the Greek javelinmen. Again, their morale is 5. I've rolled a 9, which means the difference is 4. When you go to the chart, that is broken and flee. And so I have to roll 2 dice, add that to their regular movement, and that's how far they'll travel. I was able to roll high enough on their flee to push them through the hoplite unit, and the hoplite unit was not disrupted by this move, and so I have placed a red bottle cap reminder that this unit is broken and is fleeing. Okay. And that's how it ends turn 2. Things are starting to heat up. I'm surprised that the 2 cavalry units have remained in combat for so long. There is an option for them to pull out if they were fighting like infantry or something, but fighting other cavalry, that could be very, very, very suspect, because they have such a great movement, and your movement is not as great when you're fleeing as when you're pursuing. So this is how it ends in turn 2. I appreciate everybody hanging in there with me. It's just something, a little side project to keep me busy, keep the gray matter going. I will be working on turn 3. That will be coming up here next week, and I'll also be posting more work on my Spanish units for my Roman army, and at some point in time I think I'll be breaking out my Romans and redoing them, because they're one of the first historical units I did, and they need shield transfers, they need to be reorganized, some of them need to be rebased, and just where it matches the kind of work that I'm doing now as opposed to the work I did when I very first started. So everybody have a great rest of your weekend. Hope everybody stays safe. If you want to subscribe, leave a comment. I appreciate anybody that checks this out. It's just a fun little side project. Let me know if you guys are doing any sort of side projects and how they're going. I know a lot of guys are doing a lot of stuff online, but I was just missing the look of the tabletop and moving figures around. So everybody have a great weekend, and I will see you next time.